Good morning, my YouTube friends. This is Michelle at Michelle's Garden. I hope everybody is enjoying their morning. This morning we're going to make green beans. I'm going to show you how I make my green beans. They're my garden green beans from last year, and they were water bath canned. Did I say water bath canned? Yes, I did. And did I can them that way? Yes, I did. I know a lot of people disagree with water bath canning, but that's how I can my food. Before we get started though, in my last video I told you guys that out my front window you can see mountains, and if I sit in my kitchen at the table I can see mountains, so I want to show you guys this morning. Get the camera turned. See those mountains back there? You can see the top of the greenhouse, which I really hope to make a top priority soon. But I like to sit here sometimes with my cup of coffee and look outside at the beautiful mountains. Got my cup of coffee this morning, my Elvis coffee. Alright, so we're going to go in here and I'm going to show you how I make my green beans. And I'm going to show you how I make chicken stock, because I use a lot of chicken stock in my recipes and I don't have any that's canned, so I'm going to use chicken stock that I got from the grocery store. And but I am going to can some chicken stock today. So I'm going to turn my burner on and I'm going to show you what I got here that's going to go in this pot. So I chopped up some bacon. That's probably about maybe half a cup of bacon. Just tried to roughly chop it. There's my green beans that were water bath canned, and I have not popped the seal on those yet, and I'll pop the seal so you can see they are sealed. I used some onion powder, some garlic powder, some black pepper. These are onions that I had in my garden, and the way I store my onions is I will chop them up and put them in freezer bags. And then I'm using chicken broth from the grocery store. So this one's about empty, but I'm going to pour this whole thing in my green beans. So I'm going to set you guys up and we're going to get started here. Alright, first thing we're going to do is get this bacon in here. Get it going. This is the way I make my green beans all the time. Now, if you have to stay away from sodium, you can get a low sodium broth. They sell that in the grocery store. You don't have to put all of the seasonings in that I'm putting in here, like the garlic salt and the garlic powder. You don't have to use all that. I just add it because I like the flavor of it. So get this browned really nice. When it starts to, you don't want to get it like crunchy, but when it starts to get a pretty good brown on it, that's when I would throw my onions in, because you don't want to caramelize your onions, you just want to get them translucent. So as soon as this bacon is where it needs to be, I'll show you how I put the onions in here. Okay guys, I got the bacon ready, dropping the onions in here. Sounds good, don't it? I love that sizzling sound. And as you can see, there's not a whole lot of grease in there from the bacon, so you don't have to worry about your green beans floating in a lot of grease or anything. If you prefer to have that, you know, you can put more bacon in there if you like to have a little bit more of the bacon grease. So I'll let those, like I said, get a little bit translucent, and then we will put the green beans in there. in the meantime, I'm going to show you what we're putting in our chicken stock. So I've got a whole chicken right here. I'm going to cut it up in pieces, not completely cut it in pieces. Like I'll leave the breasts intact, but I'll cut the wings and the legs off. And I'll put it in my stock pot here. I don't have a very big stock pot. I wish I had a bigger one, but so I'm going to cut up this chicken, and I would prefer like an organic or all natural chicken, but I couldn't find one. This is all I could find, so this is what I'm doing. Put a whole thing of celery in here, and you got to wash all of this first and chop it up. You can chop it in, you know, pretty big chunks. It don't have to be in like tiny pieces or anything. We're gonna cut this up. Every bit of this is going in the pot, like even the end here. We're gonna cut these in some chunks. I'm gonna leave the skins on them. I got 2 cloves of garlic here. I'm just gonna cut them in half down the center here. These are leeks. We're going to, I'll pull out some of the leaves that look bad there. I'm gonna wash all that up really good and cut it. And I'm gonna cut these carrots up and go in it. So we'll get to that here in just a little bit. Right now, it should be about time to open up our jar of green beans. Let's see how it looks in here. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Alright. So let's get one of these jars of green beans opened up. These are green beans from last year. They're water bath can. They look just fine. Whoops, you hear that? I had a battery that I was charging that fell out of the wall. See? If you can green beans, if you water bath can green beans, and they don't seal, and I have had this happen, there will be this white, awful looking film on top of this, and it will smell so bad you won't be able to get it past your nose to eat it. These are perfectly fine. They're perfectly fine. And I'm going to pour the water off of these. I'm going to rinse them off, and then I'm going to put them in this pot. Okay guys, I got the green beans in the pot. Now I have a mixture of yellow wax beans and blue lake green beans, and that's because it was at the end of the season. I had a little bit of both, and so I just canned them together. So stir that around, and I'm going to put my seasonings in here. I don't have any particular amount. I just sprinkle some on there. That was garlic salt. This is a little bit of onion salt. And then get my black pepper in here. I'll use this one. My black pepper. And then I'm going to get my chicken broth in here. So there's just a little bit in that one. And what you want to do is you want to have the liquid to cover the green beans. And I just like the flavor that the broth gives to your green beans. I know people might do this with some ham hock, and they'll put water in here. And what I'll do is I'll bring this up to a boil, and then I'll turn this down, and I will let this simmer for most of the day while I'm outside in the garden or doing other things. And that is how I make my green beans. So I know what everybody's going to want to know. How long did you water bath your green beans? when I was taught to water bath green beans, everything had to be hot. Like, you put your green beans in the pot and you boiled them for so long, and then your jars were hot, your lids were hot, and you packed everything hot, and then you dropped them into the canner. Well, since then I've seen a different method which I started using, and that is where you prepare your green beans and you get your jars ready. They don't have to be hot. You can put your lids in warm water if you want to, or you don't have to. But anyway, you snap your green beans, you get them really, really clean, wash them really good, pack them in the jars, put a teaspoon of vinegar, and you can use salt if you want to. I do use a teaspoon of salt in quart jars. And then you have a pot of boiling water on the stove, and you fill those jars to the bottom of the rim with the boiling water. Clean the top of your jar really good with some distilled vinegar. Put your lids on. Process that in a water bath canner. Rolling boil. You start your time when you have a rolling boil for 2 hours. And that's how I can my green beans. Okay, so now we're going to get started on making our chicken broth. So this is my chicken for the chicken broth. I cut the legs off of it, I cut the wings off of it, and I just threw the breast in there whole. Now when I took that out of the package, I washed it out really good, washed it up. I'm going to try to set this up where you guys can see the vegetables as I'm chopping them and throwing them in there. And be able to see that everything's going in there in chunks. So first of all, I cut my celery. See how I've got it cut in chunks? And this is the end of the celery. Everything's going in. This gives lots of flavor to your stock. And I did get this recipe from another channel called Make It Make. I'm going to cut the ends off of my carrots here. Why, I don't know, because everything else is going in, skins and all. Yeah, I did get this recipe off of a channel called Make It Make. If you get a chance to check out her channel, it's really awesome. She shows you how to make a lot of things. The only thing that I'm doing different in this recipe is I'm not going to process my chicken broth the way she did. She did use a pressure canner to process her chicken broth. And when I get to the end of this, where I show you how I process mine, I'll give you the times for pressure canning so that you can do yours that way. And these leeks, I'm going to use some of the green. When you go to pull it apart, though, you might want to check and see if they're clean, because sometimes I can feel a little bit of grit in these. I did wash them, but I will pull them back and check for that. I'll wash these off a little bit more too. I just put everything in there. I did some turkey this way. I think it was the week before last. I had a whole turkey. And I put it in the pot. I cut it up also. Put it in the pot with all these same ingredients. And it came out really awesome. Smells up your house really good. And I do believe that this chicken will have a lot more grease to it. So when I go to process this in my jars, you don't have to do this, but this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to put it in the fridge overnight and let the grease set up, and then I'm going to remove the grease off of the broth, and then when I process it, it'll be, I guess you could call it a low fat. It'll have less fat in it, which is what I would rather have. So yeah, really make sure you clean these leeks. I don't know exactly what they're grown in that gives it that gritty. I've never seen leeks grown, to be honest with you. Well, I guess they're grown in dirt like everything else, huh? Okay, so the garlic, see, I just cut it in half. Just throw it in there. Gotta have a little bit of muscle. My onions, if I see any black or anything on it, I do cut it off. I'm going to cut my ends off, at least on one side. I think it's so awesome to be able to can your own broth, to have it, because if you're anything like me, you use it in a lot of things. I use it in chicken soup. I use it to make my green beans. Sometimes I might use it in chicken pot pie. And that's another thing. I really like to learn how to make, let's see, cream of mushroom, cream of chicken. Like I make a chicken pot pie, and I use cream of celery, cream of broccoli, and I would like to learn how to make all those things. Now this here is something new to me. I've never tried to make my own broth before. I'd like to do a beef broth. I'm going to have to maybe search a video for that. Maybe we can do a beef broth together. Ooh, these onions are making me cry. Alright. Yes, they are making me cry. I need a sharper knife now. Okay, guys, so that's everything that you need. You can see that fills your pot up. That's why I need a bigger pot. Need a bigger stock pot. Oh, I got some of my leeks over here that I didn't get. Duh. I didn't see them. Definitely need a stronger knife. I'll check these and see if they need washing. Okay. So after you get all this in there, it will cook down. I know it looks full, but it will cook down. If you have a bigger stock pot, it's even better because you can put water over this and you can have your stuff, you know, floating in the water, so it'd be more down in the water. So I'm going to get some water in that pot, get it covered up. And we're going to turn the heat on and get it going. I'll show you how long this is going to, how long it's going to cook. It's going to take a good while. This is something good to make on a rainy day when you're stuck in the house, or say in the winter time when you can't get outside as much. It's a beautiful day here today, so I'm working on trying to get outside. I think it's going to be in the upper 60s today. If you're new to my channel, I live in Western North Carolina. We're in Zone 7B. We finally, I think, cooled down for the year, which is absolutely wonderful. I haven't done as much outside because of the heat. As you get older, it gets awfully hard to get out there and stay out in the heat all day long. I used to be able to get out there and just be out there from morning till night. Okay, just a little bit more water. Coffee's getting cold because I've been busy doing other things. Okay, I think I'm right at the top of where I can go with that. Alright guys, so we're going to put the lid on this. I'm going to turn it up on high. We're going to bring it to a boil. And when you get it up to a boil, turn it down and let it simmer for 4 to 6 hours. I don't know if I'm going to go 4 or if I'm going to go 6. I'll let you know how long I let it go because I'm going to go out in the garden for a little while. I've got plants that have to go in the ground. So this is what we're doing for today. And we'll come back in just a little while and we'll see what this chicken stock looks like. So here's the chicken broth after it's been cooking for about 5 hours. Look at that. Some beautiful chicken broth. So what I'm going to do is I will take all these vegetables out, take the chicken out of the bottom, and then I will strain it probably a couple of times and get as much of the meat and anything from the vegetables out of the broth. And I will put it in the refrigerator overnight because I don't know if you can see how oily that is, and there will be a layer of like a grease on top, and I will skim that off and then I'll start the canning process. Hey guys, we're back the next morning. I let this chicken stock sit in the refrigerator overnight because I thought it would put a film of, it would make the grease on top of it cold so I could take it off, but it turns out there was hardly any grease, and so I'm just going to ladle this into my jars and we're going to get it into the canner. This turned out to be really good. I strained this twice to try to get as much of any pieces of chicken or vegetable out of here. It turned out really, really good. I'm really impressed with the color. I think it looks awesome. I usually get about 4 quart jars, 2 pint jars that I put in the canner. And I'm going to get a time for you guys if you want to put yours in a pressure canner. I'm not doing a pressure canner. So I'm going to finish filling these jars up and I'll show you when I put them in the canner. Okay guys, so I've got this in the canner. Got my lids on it. I wiped my rims with distilled white vinegar. Put my lids on, snugged them just a little bit tighter than finger tight. I'm going to drop these in the canner for 2 hours. And that'll start with a rolling boil for 2 hours. So come back and see me in 2 hours and I'll show you what it looks like. Well, here's the finished product, everybody. Getting ready to get these jars out. They've been processing for 2 hours. You can see it's still boiling. You can see some little pieces and stuff in there. Let me get all these out. Now, if you want to put these in a pressure canner, 11 pounds of pressure, quart jars 25 minutes, and pint jars 20 minutes. If you want to mix them together, 25 minutes putting the pints and the quarts together. I just choose to water bath mine because I prefer to do it that way. Okay, so that's the finished product, and I really appreciate you guys hanging around. It's been a pretty long video, but it took a long time to get all this put together. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I thank you for being with me through it. And get out there and make you some chicken stock, and I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you next time from Michelle's Garden.